Now, let's bring it back to Jesus. That rainbow symbol that you mentioned that's so unique, when the Bible talks about it, it says that God put his bow in the sky. And, that's a weapon of war. Like the Bible doesn't say rainbow. It didn't have categories for the first rainbow. Nobody had ever seen it before. But when it says that he puts his bow in the sky, it's like God has brought this judgment upon the earth. He has flooded the earth. It's actually a major judgment. When he says, I'm putting my bow in the sky, you're to understand that God is setting down his weapon. And for now, he is at peace with the world again. And this is the cool part of it. When he sets his bow in the sky, and you look up at the rainbow, which way is the rainbow pointing? Is it pointing to heaven or earth?
Heaven.
It's pointing up to the heavens. And it's like what God is saying is, I'm done. I'll never flood the earth again. And as a promise, as a covenant sign to you, I put my bow down on the earth. But the bow is now pointing up to heaven, which means the next time there's a judgment that's going to come for the sins of mankind on earth, where's that arrow flying?
To God.
It's flying up to the heavens.
Oh man, that was a good stretch. I mean, I've seen some stretches in my day as far as Christians are concerned, but that was a huge stretch. That the rainbow represents the bow of God, his weapon, and that the next time the weapon fires, it'll be firing at the heavens, so that because he said it won't flood, it's going to pour down rain, brimstone, and fire is going to be the next judgment. So his bow is pointing to the heavens. Oh my gosh. And then he had to mention that people have never seen a rainbow before. Does he not realize that a good 1,000 years before any of these stories were ever being told, that in China, they had already told a story about how the Yellow River continued to flood? And what's interesting is that there's another video with this gentleman that I used about 3-4 weeks ago, where he talks about the Chinese story of Nawu, who, I think it's Nawu. Yeah, it's like Nawu, because he tried to say it sounds like Noah. And that when this goddess plugged up the sky that was leaking and causing the flood of the Yellow River, not the whole world, just the Yellow River, that she used these multicolored stones to plug it up. And because of the multicolored stones, that created the rainbows in the sky. So at least 1,000 years before this Noah story was ever told, there was a Mandarin, a Chinese story, whatever, I don't know the exact name of the tribe at that time frame or the people at that time frame, but they already have a story. And they said that the reason why the sky bows is because she used the legs of the giant tortoise to hold up the sky to replace the previous pillars. And because the legs were not all the same height, that's why the sky has a bow to it. But she used these colored stones in order to plug up the hole. And that's why you have a rainbow according to their beliefs. Now, what is the problem with both of these stories? The problem with both of these stories is that at the time frame that they was being written, that people didn't realize that the reason why you have a rainbow after a rainstorm or at the place of a waterfall or something of similar where there is water spray that is going on is because the light is passing through the prism of the water molecules, which is creating the rainbow. They didn't have the scientific knowledge to understand that back then. This is why they attribute these things to gods and goddesses and stones and this God given a symbol, because the rainbow was already previously viewed by millions and billions of people much earlier than these stories had been written. But in order for them to understand and explain how this happened, because man has seemed to have this problem of saying, I don't know. Here I am looking at the rainbow, but I don't know how that happened because we're living in a time frame where we don't have the understanding of it. So guess what? Let's just make up a story. Or we're making up a story, and because we don't understand that rainbow, let's say God did it, or some goddess did it, or she put some stones up against the sky, and it's too far for us to see it, but that's why the rainbow happens. But no one ever thought, it only happens when there's a water flow with spray or rain, and it only happens during the daytime. So maybe there's a correlation between the light and the water instead of some God. I'm sure somebody probably said that. And because religious people are zealous, they probably killed him back then. But this man living today should know better. But because of conscientious bias, he has to force confirmation bias. He has to force his story to be somehow true when we know scientifically it is not true. But yet he continues and persists because he's hoping that other people with their confirmation bias and other people with their cognitive dissonance will just ignore the facts of all the science by which we know how these things occur. And because they have this desire to believe this story, that they will stay with this story and they will accept it. And it winds up being true because in the comments, people are thank you God and no Jesus is and all these other things to demonstrate that they are in agreement with his foolishness. But as long as they keep believing it, he'll keep saying it, just like many pastors and apologists out there. But hey, thankfully, I'm surrounded by people who use their mind and critically think through all these situations. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.